welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us on a Tuesday. You know, we got a pretty big political race on our hands here in District 4. As you know, Mr. Horsford is running the show right now in the Democratic Party. But, you know, we've had Lisa Song Sutton, former Miss Nevada, now running for District 4. She's been in studio. Sam Peters has been in studio. So the guy we have with us in studio right now, his name is Jim Marchant. He is one of 8 people that are running for Congress for District 4, the primary happening in June. And he joins us right now in studio. Jim, I appreciate you being here. How are you?
Great to be here. I appreciate you guys inviting me in.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So a lot of stuff to get to in a short period of time. And,
Right.
and we've talked a little bit off the air about where I stand politically and why I don't like Donald Trump and all that stuff.
Right.
So I want to start with some national issues, Jim, if that's okay. Get people even more familiar with you if they're not. And then go to some of the local issues. Let's start with gun control, because I think this is a big topic. As you know, we lost 59 people October 1, and the biggest mass shooting in American history. I know you've talked a lot about how you have an A+ rating with the NRA.
Correct.
My question to you would be this. What is your solution to ending or helping to end some of these mass shootings, and what has the NRA done in that category to do that?
Well, I would say we need to strengthen the Second Amendment. In other words, allow most of the people that are out there to own guns without some of the controls on there. I don't mind the background checks, but I think they're encroaching on the Second Amendment, and I'm against that. I'm a strong advocate of the Second Amendment. I think we also need to address the mental health issue of gun control. And we took out mental health facilities a long time ago, I think back in the 60s, 50s, 60s, and I think we're paying for that now.
Okay, well, let me start with where I agree with you on, and that is mental health, of course. Right. Obviously, we don't want mentally deranged people to be able to buy weapons.
Right.
We all agree on that. So let's start with where we agree on. You talked a little bit about the Second Amendment. So what I hear from Republicans out there is that Democrats are gun grabbers. They want to take your guns away. I haven't heard of one Democrat in office right now that has said they want to take all your guns away. What I do hear from some Democrats, like the Beto O'Rourke's, those type of people, and I agree with him, the specific types of weapons that are used in the majority of these mass shootings, I don't think should be sold to the public. I agree with you. If you're a responsible person, you've never committed a felony, you're legal, right? You're in this country legally. I want you to be able to protect yourself.
Right.
But police officers have pistols, right? In most situations. Why isn't that enough?
Sometimes it's not. I mean, so there have been instances where people have broken into people's homes and they've needed something like an AR to defend themselves.
You believe that you need an AR-15 to defend yourself in a home invasion?
Not necessarily a home invasion, but the Second Amendment was designed to protect us against our tyrannical government, and that's what I want it for.
But wasn't that created when we had the musket?
Doesn't matter. Back then, the musket was the AR-15.
So a musket and an AR-15 today, and you're saying it doesn't matter the technology since then?
Right. Doesn't matter to me.
Okay, so what is your solution? Okay, so you talked a little bit about mental health. What about red flag laws?
I'm against the red flag laws because I don't want anybody that has a beef with me to be able to have the authorities confiscate my guns without due process.
Jim, are you married?
No.
Okay, so let's just say hypothetically you are, or you have kids?
No.
Okay. Let's just say hypothetically you're married, just for the sake of argument.
All right.
Your wife is threatened by somebody in the workplace that day. Somebody in the workplace says, I'm going to kill you tomorrow. I'm going to bring a gun into work and I'm going to kill you. Now, there's evidence of it. It's a text message or a voicemail. Let's just say your wife, hypothetically, of course, calls the police.
Right.
They come in. They arrest him. He's out in 2 hours. Are you saying you're comfortable with that guy buying a gun? Because if there are no red flag laws, that gentleman will be able to buy a gun in the state of Nevada. There are some states where that wouldn't be able to happen. In Nevada, he's legally able to buy a gun. So you're saying you're okay with that?
No, I'm not okay with that.
Well, then that would be a red flag law.
So if that happens, that instance happens, then a police report should be able to be filed, and then that would show up on the background check.
Well, but what if he doesn't have anything, in his past, and if it's a threat of someone's life,
that should be
he hasn't been convicted though.
The threat should be that should be able to cause him to not be able to buy a gun.
Well, he has to be convicted of a felony, though. That's the I think,
right.
And to be convicted, we're talking a month or two down the road.
That's where we need to work on these issues.
Well, that's but with all due respect, Jim, that's my point. That would be a red flag law. You're saying it takes months for him to be convicted.
Red flag laws are going too far.
So what do we do in that situation, though?
Well, we're going to have to figure out a way to do it. But
what are Republicans and Democrats doing?
Compromising the Second Amendment is the way to do it.
So you think it's compromising the Second Amendment if we have a man that threatens a woman in the workplace, threatens her life, and there's evidence to prove that, but you're still okay with that person buying a gun? I mean, because basically that's what you're saying.
Well, the Second Amendment's pretty clear. Everybody has the right to bear arms and shall not be infringed, and we've got to figure out how to deal with these problems.
But Jim, you don't think that? I mean, we talked about the musket. The musket, it took probably 1 minute to load and actually, kill someone.
Takes me longer than that. But
really, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. How long does it take?
Everybody's different.
Yeah,
it would
probably take me 10 minutes because I have no idea what I'm doing.
Right.
But with an AR-15, you can get off how many rounds in about 60 seconds?
Oh, whatever's in the magazine.
So you don't think that maybe the Second Amendment should possibly be relooked at to kind of match modern technology predicated on those circumstances?
Yeah, I don't. I think the Second Amendment's clear and it's designed for us to protect ourselves against the tyrannical government.
All right. Well, obviously, we're going to disagree on that. I mean, I think we in this room, I would hope and I would think that we all want the same thing. We don't want innocent people to be hurt or killed.
Right.
We don't want mass shootings to happen. But I'm not sure the answer is more guns. I don't think that's going to make people safer. But we can disagree on that.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's why we had you in. We're going to have discussions on things that we're probably not going to agree on.
Right.
We're speaking with Jim Marchant, running in District 4. Of course, that primary is going to be in June. Okay, let's talk about abortion. This is another issue that, and listen, I don't disagree with Republicans on everything, and we'll get into some things I'm sure we agree on. But abortion is one of those things where, listen, if a woman uses it as birth control, it's disgusting.
Right.
If a woman has late-term abortions and it's not a health reason, that to me, that's disgusting. However, I know you're pro-life, but in an instance when a teenage girl is raped, you think that she should be forced to have the child?
Yeah, those are hard issues. And me being a male, it's hard for me to come out and say definitively this is the way it should be. So abortion with exceptions is something that I could consider, but I'm like you. I don't want abortion to be used as birth control.
Of course.
I think people should be responsible.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's used for that, I'm definitely against it.
We agree with that. But when it comes to rape and incest and those types of situations, I do not believe the government or somebody on the right should tell that woman or teenager in some cases, you should be forced to have that child. I think that should be a decision that the family makes. Now, there are other people that are running. We had Lisa Song-Sutton in, and she agreed with me on this one that, exceptions. I believe Sam Peters agreed with that as well. So,
and that is something I could consider.
But why is
I said?
But why is it that you can't say right now that if a teenage girl is raped, you're not sure whether we should force her to have that child or not? Because this is, and I respect your opinion. But why can't you answer that now?
Well, I can. So there are ways that that can be handled. There are a lot of people that want to adopt at this point, and that is one avenue that we could look at. And but I'm a guy. I can't really say. I've never been a woman.
I agree.
I agree. I think that she should be able to consider whatever action she wants to take, but I think there are limits to it, like late-term abortion, that kind of thing. Allowing the baby to be born and then decide whether to let it die or not. That's not right.
But then under those circumstances, a woman's been raped. She carries a child for 9 months, or we'll call it 8.5, whatever it is. Maybe they're 2 weeks early or late. And then she is forced to give that baby away that she has an emotional attachment to.
Right.
That's got to be difficult for her for the rest of her life.
I don't know that. Why would she be forced to do that?
Assuming that adoption is a route that she would, maybe she doesn't have the money to make to give the baby the type of life that she thinks that it needs.
Right. I don't. Well, that should be her choice whether she wants to give it up or not. But I don't think she should be forced to give it up or to keep it.
But I think, Jim, you said it best, though, when you said, listen, I'm a guy. I don't know what it's like, and so am I, as far as I know I am. But there are a lot of middle-aged men, some on the right, who want abortion to be abolished.
Right.
I have a huge problem with that.
Yep.
Now, if you had a bunch of women that wanted to put that stuff in a law, I would still disagree with it, but I'd be a little more understanding than have a bunch of middle-aged men that are not women, that don't know what it's like to be pregnant, don't know what it's like to have an abortion.
Right.
That's my issue. And, in Alabama, they tried to pass some really nutty stuff. Okay, really nutty stuff. If a woman goes out of state, she could have gone to jail for up to 15 years for having a legal abortion in another state. Incest, rape, they were going to force all women to have children. The problem we have in our country, in my personal opinion, is we have too many people extreme left and extreme right. And that's why nothing gets done in this country. And I think this is another example of that. Why can't Republicans, Jim, and Democrats work together on this?
They should be able to. But right now, Roe v. Wade is the law, and that's what we have to adhere to.
So you
That
wouldn't
is the
call
law.
somebody a murderer. If a woman has a legal abortion, you wouldn't call her a murderer, would you?
I guess it depends on when she has it.
A legal abortion, something that is legal under the law, let's just say within 4 months. Because there are some Republicans
once
out
again,
there.
It kind of depends on, when you, like, what is it, first trimester, second trimester? I guess the heartbeat.
Within the first 4 months.
Yeah.
Would you call a woman a murderer for having a legal abortion under 4 months?
Probably not, because the law doesn't allow that.
Well, I'm happy to hear you say that, because there's a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but I have some Republican friends that call people murderers for having abortions. No, O.J. Simpson is a murderer, okay? A woman who has a legal abortion, in my personal opinion, is not a murderer. But I think we agree on this a lot more than we disagree. Let's put it that way. Okay, so let's talk about, and we're going to get into a lot more national subjects, but I do want to talk about Donald Trump. We talk about Trump all the time on this show, right? Now, Jim, I know you're a supporter of Donald Trump.
Huge supporter.
So I say there are, in my opinion, right, there's reasonable Republicans and there's unreasonable Republicans. The reasonable Republicans like some of his policies. They hate the things he says on Twitter. They hate the fact that he goes after John McCain's war service. They hate the fact that he attacks women based on looks. He has all these extramarital affairs, but they like his policies. And I'll listen to that because I think that's reasonable. What I don't like,
I don't think it's so much. And I'm a Trump supporter. But I don't like the things he does on Twitter that you just mentioned. But it's not the fact that I hate it. It's that I don't understand why he believes that he has to do it just because he's attacked.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know why he always has to respond when attacked.
Well, let me ask you, Jim, because do you agree with JD? What are your thoughts on Donald Trump? Tell us why you've supported him, and you're a staunch supporter of him. You've admitted that.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me why, and tell me the things you like about him, the things you dislike.
I love what he's doing. He's keeping his promises. The tax cuts were great. It spurred the economy, and that's one of my big issues, is keeping our economy strong so everybody can be, live the great life, the American dream. And a lot of people don't like what he does on Twitter and what he says sometimes, but I'm from the South, and we're not like that. So I don't totally understand it, but he's from New York. I know some people from New York. They're kind of, that's kind of the way they are. I accept it. Doesn't really bother me. So I just go with it.
So I have family, and I understand. I have family in New York. I'm from Connecticut. I have a lot of friends in New York. I've never heard anybody in New York that I know, and I know hundreds of people, go after someone who served the country honorably, in this case John McCain, who was 5 years a POW, and said you don't respect him because he's captured. Yes, I do know some men that attack women based on looks, but I think we should have a higher standard for the President of the United States.
But Brian, that being said, it's not like he is just cavalierly attacking these people. John McCain went after him first, and he responded.
John McCain.
The point is, he's the president
policy,
of the point is
he's
the president of the United States, and he doesn't have to do that. And I don't know why he thinks he does, but I understand where Jim's coming from too, where he's kind of got that brash, arrogant New York background, where if you don't respond when attacked, then it's kind of perceived as weakness. So I see that as well.
I think there's a fine line between John McCain disagreeing with Donald Trump on politics and Donald Trump going after John McCain on his war service. There's a fine line there. We can disagree on politics.
Yeah, I don't know that he just went after him on policy. I mean, who knows what he did personally?
Well, exactly.
With
I'm not
Trump.
going to guess. I can only go by what they say. And Donald Trump, what we know, went after his service. Donald Trump, let's call it for what it is. He dodged the military. I'm not going to sit here. I mean, you ask me when you have bone spurs, and by the way, that doctor's family said it was made up. I'm going to believe them. I have a problem with anybody, especially the president, going after anybody's service who dodged the military themselves. That's just my opinion, Jim. Am I wrong?
Well, I probably would not have done it, but that's me. And like I said, I can put up with some of those things as long as he gets the job done, as long as he makes America great again and keeps America great in the future.
I guess that's where we have a fundamental disagreement, Jim,
Right.
and because I don't think the president should ever go after a woman based on looks. He did that with Nancy Pelosi a month ago.
Right.
I don't think the president should ever ever go after POWs or withhold aid for political gain. Why can't we have both? I guess that's my question. Why can't we have a president that has good policy and is somewhat respectful to others?
That's a good question. Like I said, I probably wouldn't do that if I were there, but I don't know. I'm not in that position, so
Well,
I
again,
can't really
Jim,
say.
keep in mind Brian is also looking for the perfect presidential candidate.
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
That's not true.
Obviously. No,
Well, absolutely
not.
he's very clearly looking for the perfect
No,
Actually,
candidate.
we all are.
No,
I would love that.
First of all, that's not true.
Yeah.
Second of all, that's never going to happen. Third of all, I didn't vote for Barack Obama, but here's something, Jim, I will say, and I would imagine you're not a Obama supporter, and
No.
that's fine. I'm sure you have your reasons.
Right.
But I will say this about Obama. I believe him to be a very good husband, a very good father, and a decent human being that would never stand up on a stage with Kim Jong-un or Vladimir Putin and side with evil, murderous dictators over his own CIA.
I don't know that President Trump did that. I don't agree that he did that. I think he is trying to work to make the whole world a better place. And the way he is dealing with it is he thinks he needs to talk to these people and deal with them.
So when Donald Trump is asked about Otto Warmbier in North Korea on a national stage, and he takes the side of Kim Jong-un and is asked, and Kim Jong-un says, well, I'm really sorry, I don't know what happened, and Donald Trump said he believed him. When Vladimir Putin said they did not interfere in the elections on a world stage, and Donald Trump says, well, I see no reason why they did. I believe Vladimir Putin. When the CIA tells us something completely different, isn't that sucking up to evil, murderous dictators?
I don't agree. No. Who's to say that our CIA is pristine?
So we should believe an evil, murderous dictator over our own CIA, and you're okay with the president doing that?
You never know.
But you're okay with that?
I'm okay with Trump doing what he's done so far.
So you're okay with, again, I just want to go to these specific situations because this is me personally. This is why
I don't agree with the way you're putting it, but yeah.
You tell me, where am I wrong? Donald Trump was asked in North Korea about Otto Warmbier. Did you talk to Kim Jong-un?
Right.
His response was, Kim Jong-un said he wasn't responsible and he feels bad about it. I believe him.
We don't know what President Trump knows, and I can't really say what I would have done in that instance. So we don't know. I mean, maybe he knows something that he felt like that's what he had to say.
What do you believe happened there?
I have no idea. I wasn't there.
You think it was an accident?
Have no idea. I doubt
You have
it.
to have an opinion.
I doubt it, but like I say, maybe there was a reason that he felt like that's what he had to say.
Do you feel Russia interfered in the election?
No.
So you do not believe our own CIA and 8 other agencies that agree with me?
With it, manipulating social media like they could, buying ads, that kind of thing.
Well, that's interfering in the election.
Well,
it is by definition.
But everybody interferes then, because I buy ads. I do ads on social media.
Well, you're not a
and stuff
foreign
like-
entity, and that is a big distinction. Number one.
Yep. But how do we, without taking away complete freedom, stop that? I don't know. If we censor the social media companies, which I'm not in agreement with a lot of them because they're mostly liberal. But I'm for freedom too.
Well, I will tell you this, Jim. Twitter actually just received a giant investment from a Republican billionaire.
I saw
and
that.
should,
what was his name? I
I
forgot.
don't remember his name, but that should definitely change the landscape. Because Twitter, as you mentioned, is extremely left-winger, so to speak. I'm going to shift to Nevada politics. Brian mentioned how we've had Lisa Song-Sutton on and Sam Peters. And Sam Peters, when he came on, he said that Nevadans and Las Vegans in particular just are not concerned with Donald Trump. What do you think Las Vegans are concerned with?
What do you mean not concerned with Donald Trump?
They're not talking about Donald Trump. That's not an issue that they're talking about.
Man, that's not what I hear.
Yeah.
That's not what I hear either.
I hear out there that, matter of fact, I've done some polling, and that's the number one. If I didn't support Donald Trump, I might as well forget it. And just based on the polls that I'm doing, so that's the number one issue: is do I support Donald Trump? And secondary, it's the economy and gun rights, and then health care. And that's another issue that I'm big on, and trying to figure out how that we Republicans can come up with a plan to counter the Affordable Care Act.
Sure. One more national, and then we'll get to the local
Okay.
stuff. I want to talk a little bit about gay marriage, and obviously there are a lot of Republicans out there that disagree with gay marriage.
Right.
I think that's wrong. I don't think we should look at someone and based on their sexual orientation treat them differently than somebody that's straight. Give me your thoughts on gay marriage, your thoughts on that, your thoughts on transgenders and
Right.
these neutral bathrooms. Just give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm not for the transgender bathrooms. It's a lot of extra cost to do that. There are two genders, and I think what you're born with is the bathroom you go into. And what was the other question?
Just gay marriage in general.
I'm kind of libertarian on that. I don't want the government telling anybody what to do, but I don't want if somebody doesn't want that type of lifestyle or doesn't want it forced on them, I don't want that either.
Do you believe that being gay is a choice?
As opposed to being born with it, I think it's a choice.
So you think that every single person in this country that is a homosexual just wakes up one day and says, you know what? I'm a man. I think today I'm going to be attracted to men. Or I'm a woman. You know what? Today I think I'm going to switch it up and I'm going to be attracted to women. You don't think, because a lot of homosexuals that I've talked to, many of them, not all of them, say that they knew they were gay when they were 5 or 6 years old.
Wow.
So your opinion is people just wake up in the morning, a man just wakes up and says, you know what? I think I'm attracted to men today.
That's possible with the culture we live in, the environment. It's possible.
So you think Richard Simmons was born straight and then one day decided he was going to be gay?
That's possible.
Well, that's what you believe,
Yeah.
though, right? You're saying that's possible, but that's what you're telling me.
You know, once again, I'm not there. I don't know how they think.
So let's go with that. So if you're not there and you don't know how they think, then why do you make an assumption about all of them? Because when you say, with all due respect,
So do you
that
think
gay people,
there's a gene? You think there's a gene they're born with?
I absolutely believe that there are some men that are and women that are born with, hold on, let me answer, that are born with more testosterone than others. I think that is just a fact. And I think when you have 5 and 6 year olds that are 30, 40, 50, I don't think they're lying when they say that they knew they were gay when they were 5 or 6, and when they were 10, 11, 12, they were absolutely attracted to the same sex. I mean, I think that's a pretty... Now, I'm not saying, Jim, that there aren't some cases. I know some women, in fact, that had horrible sexual abuse happen to them when they were younger. It's terrible.
Right.
And now they only date women. And there are some, don't get me wrong. You're right. There are some cases of that. But yeah, I mean, I certainly, and listen, you're entitled to your opinion. I just don't think that every gay person in America, especially in our society, as many people look down upon them because of their sexuality, they all just decide one day, you know what? I think I'm going to be gay. No, I'm sorry. I just don't think that.
Yeah, I just the environment that we're living in now. I don't know whether it encourages that today.
So you think we actually encourage people to be gay?
I think that our environment does, in some cases, encourage it.
You think that some people are kind of choosing the trendy route to act or to choose to be or dress or integrate themselves in something like that is homosexual?
I think so. I mean, we have been, when I was born in the 50s, late 50s, and it was the end thing to be a macho man back then, and we don't do that now. We're actually our culture is teaching men to be more feminized.
So you think being gay is kind of quote unquote in?
I think so.
Do you think it makes you less of a man if you're a homosexual?
No, not really. I can't say that. There's probably some homosexual men that are bodybuilders. I mean, they're men. But yeah.
So why is it then that you're against gay marriage?
I'm not totally against gay marriage. I said that I'm more of a libertarian.
You're more of a libertarian.
And I don't want the government telling us what to do.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm not like that. And once again, I'm not there. I don't really understand that line, that the people that are like that.
Yeah.
But I have friends that are gay.
I guess what you said again makes a lot of sense to me, because I don't think a lot of people think like that. I think a lot of people make assumptions about others. You say, listen, I don't know. I'm not in their shoes. Listen, Jim, I can't imagine, and we only got about a minute, then we got to go to break, and we'll take some calls. I can't imagine how difficult it is to be in a body that you're not comfortable in, Well, I'm not comfortable with my body. I need to lose like 20 or 30 pounds. But that's another.
Well, why would you be?
That's
Ron?
another story for another show. But to be you want to be a different gender. I can't imagine the hell that one must go through to want to have to transition. And I guess I have a sympathy for those types of people, you know? I mean, am I wrong in thinking that way?
Well, no, probably not. But I don't think that we taxpayers should pay for it either.
You're talking about if they serve in the military.
If
right.
they serve anything.
Let's talk about that when we come back, because I think that's a very good subject that you brought up. Our guest is Jim Marchant. He is running for District 4, one of 8 candidates, and the primary actually is coming up. It's coming up. It's going to be in June. And I also want to talk to Jim a little bit about his own resume, what work he's done in Nevada, and why. I want to ask him, why is he the person to not only win in June in the primary, but to defeat Horsford? So we'll ask him those questions, some more local stuff coming up next, and we'll take your phone call, 702-257-5396 with Jim Marchant. Again, that number, 257-5396. We will take a quick break, be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take.
Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is The Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro. 1, 2, 3.
All right, welcome back. It is The Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us. Our in-studio guest, Jim Marchant. He is one of 8 candidates running for Congress in District 4. The primary will be in June, and he's nice enough to join us. We're also taking some phone calls. If you have a question for Jim or a comment, we've touched on abortion. We've touched on Donald Trump. Not literally. I wouldn't want to touch Donald Trump, but we've touched on him, the subject, literally, and a lot of other issues as well. Like I said, abortion. We haven't gotten to immigration yet. We talked about gun control. And again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-257-5396. So we talked a little bit about, transgenders, that sort of deal, and I have a problem with one of Donald Trump's policies where he does not want to allow transgenders to serve in the military. Now, I understand that taxpayers should probably not pay for that surgery, but what about those that have served in the military honorably for 10, 20, 30 years? They've already either had the surgery or they're not planning on having the surgery, but they identify themselves as another gender. Why should they not serve?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I'm not sure that I would prevent them from doing it. Maybe, I'd have to let the military leaders determine whether they're qualified enough to, be a war fighter and be on the battlefield. But they could do some other issues. They may be perfectly fine doing that too.
Yeah. So I think that's where we both probably would disagree with Donald Trump. I do not believe that we should discriminate against someone because of their sexuality, because they're transitioning or they're a transgender. Let them pay for the surgery. I don't disagree with that.
I think we should pay for it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, that being said, Jim, when I think to myself, when I look in the mirror, I am clearly anatomically male. And if I was to convince myself that I was female, despite the fact that I had every single female or every single characteristic that tells me I'm male, would you trust me with a weapon if I was convincing myself that I was a female when I was clearly a male?
Well, that's I'd have to leave that up to the experts. I know that if I was in the trenches and a transgender, somebody that had decided to change it, I don't know whether they would be not allowed in there, but whether they would make their way to that point where they could be in that situation. If they could handle it, great. Like I said, there are bodybuilders that are,
I just feel like there's a major mental disconnect when you are clearly something.
Well, I'll be honest.
But you are convinced that you're not that thing that you clearly are.
I'll be honest with you. I have a lot more respect for somebody that is risking their life for this country, whether they think they're a man or a woman, I don't care, than somebody who is the president of the United States who has clearly dodged the military and made up bone spurs. So that's just my opinion on that. We'll leave it at that. I think we agree more than we disagree on that subject. All right, Jim. So we're in an era now where, and by the way, the number to call is 702-257-5396. Our guest, Jim Marchant. We'll take a few phone calls in a few moments here. We're in an era where I'm sure you would agree we're very divided as a country. Now, while you did say you believe that President Trump in the break is the most popular president of your lifetime, some people could debate that, but we're very divided as a country. In 2016, Donald Trump did lose the popular vote. I'm not saying he's going to lose the presidency in 2020. I do think he will lose the popular vote again. So in this era, you have said that if you win and you're going up against Horsford, that you would join the Freedom Caucus. Now, explain that, because the Freedom Caucus, a lot of people would say that's You're not bringing people together.
They're very conservative, and mostly fiscally conservative, which is what I am. I definitely. I think these guys are the rock stars of the House of Representatives. Met a lot of them. I like a lot of them. A couple of them have endorsed me to this point. Congressman Andy Biggs, the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus, has endorsed me. And that's the group that I identify with in the House.
Fair enough, but you understand the argument. Some people would say, well, wait a second, they're way to the right, and that's not necessarily bringing people together. How are you going to be able to work?
Some of them are, some of them aren't. I mean, some of them are,
That's the
I think
conception of
the way I look at them is they're reasonable. And that's what I've tried to be when I was in the assembly here in Nevada.
Fair enough.
I worked across the aisle. I talked with the Democrats, tried to work it out. I gave them the opportunity to convince me that their way was the right way.
So in your term, if somebody said to you, why did you only go one term and then lose to a Democrat? Why did you lose your seat to a Democrat? If your opponents make that argument, and by the way, some of them have,
Some of them
what would
have,
be your response to that?
You're aware of what happened in 2018.
Yes, I
Nevada
am.
is turning into a blue state. And it's extremely difficult for a Republican to win here now.
So why not bring? Okay, that's a fair point.
Right.
So why not bring perhaps some of your views a little bit more center? You don't think that would help you?
It might, but I just don't do that. I don't compromise my Reagan conservative principles. That's kind of where I was born.
And I respect that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to pander to get votes. You should go.
And I don't do that.
And you know what?
That's why probably, maybe one of the reasons I lost is I stuck to my principles.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think most people would respect that, and I respect that, actually, even though we disagree on a lot of subjects. I respect you sticking to your guns, so to speak. Let's take some phone calls. 702-257-5396. Again, that number 702-257-5396. Jim Marchant in studio, District 4. He's going to try to beat Horsford, but he's got to win in this primary in June 1st. Let's go to Alan. Alan, you are first up on the Vegas Take. You're on with Jim Marchant. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Alan?
Good morning, gents. Jim, this is a gun-related response. You are right on, and I'm going to give you, and everybody that's listening, the Cheney versus Winnebago County Department of Social Services, United States Supreme Court. The year was 1989, where the Supreme Court ruled that the defense of an individual in a dangerous situation is the responsibility of the individual and not the police. And here's another Supreme Court case. This was 2016, Catano versus Massachusetts, where the Supreme Court basically stated that if you can carry a weapon, it is protected by the Second Amendment of the Constitution, and it applies to all 50 states.
All right, fair enough, Alan. Let me ask you this then, and then I want Jim to respond to this as well. What is your solution then? What is your solution to all the gun violence in this country and the mass shootings?
I'm glad you asked. Now, you made a reference, or everybody did, to a mental health issue, okay?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody watch TV where they see the Chantix commercial where they tell you want to quit smoking? Here's how you do it. But in there, they state the side effects: violence, aggressive behavior, okay, suicidal thoughts or actions. So that's one of the issues that may be making these people go off and do what they're doing. And you made reference to 1 October. Well, I'm not going to mention the shooter's name, but he was on Valium and he was drinking. The side effects of alcohol and Valium is violent behavior.
And he also had mental illness in his family. I think that's also important to note. Listen.
Okay, I'll end with this because there's other people that want to get in. The security issues at the MGM, security guards were not permitted to check baggage. If they did, they were fired.
At Mandalay,
if they would have had their jobs and did it, that guy never would have got in with the guns, and everybody would be alive, and nobody would have been shot.
Fair enough, Alan. Alan, we appreciate your phone call. Thank you very much.
He brings up another good issue is the opioid abuse and issues that we have today. If we tackle that problem also, we will probably eliminate some of these issues, and I'm all for that.
Yeah, see, Jim, I think he made some valid points.
Right.
You've made some valid points. Here's my issue. I don't think this is one thing that can fix this. I think it's a plethora of things.
Right.
And yes, we probably disagree on this.
Right.
but I do not believe that some of these assault weapons should be sold to the public. I think some of these quote-unquote weapons of war should not be sold to the public. And with that being said, I think everyone has the right to defend themselves. I don't think you have to have a bazooka to do it. That's all.
The Second Amendment basically states that we can sell them and buy them as citizens. So that's the law.
And I understand that.
I mean, Jim, aren't there some military-grade weapons that we cannot purchase? That the government has, that the military has, that they'll have an advantage over us with?
Where in the Constitution or the Second Amendment does it say that we can? I mean, it's a pretty basic amendment. And I think we should be able to buy anything we want. Just
by the structure of everything being so expensive, I mean, we're just priced out. The public, unless you're making, unless you're worth $50 to $100 million, you're kind of just priced out from those weapons. Isn't that kind of against the Second Amendment just in itself?
I don't think so. You're talking about like buying a cannon or a bazooka or something like that,
or something along those lines. Some very expensive military weapon that the average person just cannot afford.
Yeah,
but that gives the military or the government a major advantage over the average citizen.
Does. Yeah, that's why I don't want to limit it.
I guess here's where we disagree on this issue. You said it. You said people should be able to buy whatever they want. So what do we limit it to? Can you buy a bazooka?
Yeah.
You're okay with citizens buying bazookas and tanks?
Maybe the Second Amendment says citizens have the right to bear arms. And an arm is, you said back in the Revolutionary days, it was a musket.
Right.
Today it's an AR-15. Tomorrow it may be a laser gun.
So you're okay with anybody buying a bazooka or a tanker to defend themselves?
I would say yes, because that's what the Second Amendment says.
If they can afford it, and about 99.9% of the population cannot.
Okay. Well, I think there are some weapons that are designed for mass killings, to kill as many people as possible. And me personally, I'm not comfortable with any American that is not law enforcement or a soldier having those types of weapons. There's a lot of irresponsible people out there.
Jim, do you hunt?
I don't hunt.
You don't hunt?
No. I have hunted. I'll put it. I have. From the South, that's a religion down there, but I never liked it. I never got into it.
What kind of a weapon did you use when you hunted?
Shotgun mostly.
Okay.
And
yeah. All right. Number to call, by the way, Jim Marchant is our guest. He's running in District 4. The primary will be in June. That number is 702-257-5396. Again, that number 257-5396. All right, let's talk a little bit about coronavirus, right? Everybody's talking about it. We had a guy on yesterday who actually contracted the virus in a ship with his wife. He was quarantined off for 14 days.
Was he here?
No. Actually, Jim, he spit right in your seat. Actually, right there. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm hoping it's by phone. So
absolutely by phone.
I would hope that Republicans and Democrats all want the same thing, and that is Americans to be safe and to be healthy. With that being said, so Don Jr. Over the weekend made a statement. He said that Democrats want millions of Americans to contract the virus and die, so that Donald Trump is not reelected in 2020. Do you agree with that type of rhetoric?
I didn't hear that. I don't know. I don't. Probably not. But I don't. I didn't hear what he said. So.
We played the audio yesterday, and that's what he said. And then Mike Pence kind of doubled down on it and said it was understandable because of all the attacks that Donald Trump is getting.
He said he was justified in those comments,
right?
Which, in my opinion, he clearly was not. I do think that the Democrats would like to see a poor economy from the coronavirus, and they would love to gain politically from that. But going over the top and saying that the Democrats actually hope that millions of Americans actually die from the virus, that seems, and again, this is coming from a Republican perspective, that seems completely egregious.
Yeah, that may be, like I say, I probably wouldn't have said that. But, I'm not in their place. I don't, they probably know something that I don't.
So let me ask you a question then. If Barack Obama's daughter made a statement like that when he was president, would your reaction be the same? Would it be, you know what? I don't know what's in her head.
Probably.
So it would have been the same.
Yeah,
okay. I mean, I would have called, I'll be honest with you, I would have called his daughter out, just like I called Donald Trump's son out, because I think they're irresponsible comments. But hey, let's see what you think. 702-257-5396. You're consistent, Jim, so I do respect that. Let's go to Tim. Tim, you're next up on the Vegas Take. You're on with Jim Marchant. What's on your mind, Tim?
Hey, what's up, Tim?
Hey, what's going on, guys? So, huge fan of the show. And,
thank you.
I've been listening to you for a few months now, and something that kind of caught my ear today and in the past is the transgender in the military.
Yes.
Now, I don't really understand Donald Trump's policy, but the only concern I had, because I served 15 years in the Air Force.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. I mean, it's great, and I have no problems at all with homosexuality or anything like that. I got plenty of friends who serve.
Yep.
But it's when you put someone who's transgendering or transitioning in the same bunk when you're in a deployed location or even basic training, you're going to have issues. Because if like JD said, if you're I can't even say it, anatomically male or female.
Yep.
Correct. If you see yourself as that in the mirror, but you
Fair enough.
a woman.
Yep. Fair enough,
Tim.
Tim.
That's the only issue I have.
All right, Tim, I appreciate your phone call and your statement. I want to let Jim respond to that, and I appreciate the call, Tim.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jim.
That's a great point. And like I say, I want to make sure that the people that go in the military, whatever part of the military they go in, I don't want it to harm any of the other people that are in there. Like, for example, I don't want somebody that maybe think they're more feminized or that type of thing to be in a trench and having to back up, somebody that's taking bullets, right? So I think if there's a place that they can serve in the military, I don't know whether it's a clerical position or something like that.
But I will say this, though, Jim. This gentleman said, well, you're going to face issues. The military's faced a lot of issues with straight people, too. How about the women that have been sexually abused or assaulted?
That's
so
my
this
point.
idea, this idea that just transgenders are causing issues is absurd, in my opinion. There are a lot of straight people in the military. What is his name? Bogdal? Is a perfect example.
Bergdahl,
Last I checked, that guy's straight. Anyway, let's take some more phone calls. You talked about the opioid crisis. We have a caller who wants to ask you about that. 702-257-5396. Let's go to David. David, you're next, and you're on with Jim Marchant. Go ahead, David.
Hey, what's up, David?
Hi, thank you for your call.
Sure.
I just had a couple of questions because the medical crisis that I believe we're in, unfortunately, in the state of Nevada, I was listening to your show a few weeks ago and learned that the doctors here have a malpractice cap of $300,000 of liability, and that obviously has affected the quality of care we receive here. And I personally have been subject to that. I now go to Mayo Clinic. I thank God I had a primary doctor here who, after almost a year of testing in Las Vegas, said that she had enough and sent me to Mayo, and they diagnosed me in a day and a half.
Right.
And what you're referencing is the conversation we had with Gerald Gillick, who was a malpractice attorney, and the actual number is $350,000 for non-economic damages.
Right. And with the opioid crisis, I'm fixing to make a trip to see my stepmom of 45 years, who is in hospice care. Several years ago, she had a fusion surgery. And unfortunately, the doctor that she was going to apparently got in trouble here in the last 6 months. She went to see him. And again, his office was locked up. So she had to find another doctor. 2 weeks ago, she was experiencing pain. So my dad took her to the emergency room and found out she has cancer in every organ of her body.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
And the doctor said that the reason she never felt the pain of the early signs was because the opioids had masked all of that pain.
David, I want to ask Jim about that, and I'm sorry to hear about your family member having to go through that. I want to get Jim's response to it, David. We hope she makes a very full recovery, and we appreciate the phone call. Jim, what are your thoughts on that? Here's someone who would have detected cancer earlier if not for the medication she was on. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that we need to really investigate and figure out the right way to medicate people. I think we have gone way overboard. The physicians have. The big pharma has pushed this. They've given them incentives. I mean, I got donations from big pharma.
That's an issue. You're right.
And
You're right.
It's a huge issue, and we really need to address that. I don't know exactly what the answers are.
Sure.
But it is an issue that we need to tackle.
Republicans and Democrats.
Just like
Yep.
the mental health
No question.
and the opioids, they all
Well,
kind
and-
of go together, and that's something that we have to tackle.
And especially when mental health and opioids, and this particular David's mother was, she was older, but
Right.
a lot of younger people are getting opioids at a very young age, and their
Yes.
brains are still developing, and couple that with mental health and weapons, and that's how those poor situations happen.
Recipe for disaster.
Jim Marchant running in District 4. I want to try to get to as many phone calls as I can at 702-257-5396. Let's go to Dave. He had a question about homosexuality, some comments you had made earlier. Dave, thanks for joining the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, Dave?
Hey, yeah, hey guys, can you hear me? Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
you're good. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay. Well, yeah, my perspective on this is if we think of ourselves and how did we determine our preference from a sexual standpoint? I think the answer is right in your face, and that's that it is not a choice. Mother Nature makes the choice. When I think of myself, I knew at 4 or 5 I was attracted to little girls. Didn't know anything about it, didn't understand it, but that's the way it was. And so I think, trying to decide what's in someone else's head is really hard to determine. But I think if we look at ourselves, the answer is right in our face.
Dave, I appreciate that. Thank you for the phone call. Jim, you want to respond?
Yeah, I think that, if you go back to natural law, I mean, it's a male and female, and the design is to procreate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the natural law that we live under. And so I guess there could be some anomalies where, people, where, you're attracted to the same sex, but natural law is we can't exist without procreating.
Yeah, and it is possible to procreate if you are gay, though. If you are a woman, a lesbian, you could be artificially inseminated. If you're a man, you can do the same thing to a woman.
But again, the word there is artificial, and he's saying natural, which is true. All of us here, because
it's still possible.
A woman and a man procreated and created all of us.
Do you have a problem with 2 men raising a child or 2 women raising a child?
Probably not. I think that once again, it is not natural law, and who's to say? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what in 10 or 15 years is going to happen, but I think that my preference is for a nuclear family, a man, a woman, and
that's
to
your
stay
preference.
married.
And that's your preference. I would never take that your opinion away from you. My problem is I don't want people with their religious beliefs or their preferences influencing all of society. That's my only issue. I would never take that away from you. Your thoughts on abortion.
And it goes the other way too. I don't want that don't respect my religion to force their ways on me.
I don't agree with that any more than you
Brian,
forcing others to. Let's take a few more quick phone calls. We got a lot of people on hold. Let's go to Jay. Jay, you're next up. You're on with Jim Marchant.
Hey, what's up, Jay?
Good morning, gentlemen, and thanks for taking the call. There were 2 points that Mr. Shapiro brought up that I view as being 2 of the most absurd and unnerving issues concerning the Trump administration.
Okay, go ahead.
And one of it has to do with Trump's position on the world stage in Helsinki when he took Putin's side in the face of not 1, not 6 or 7 as you suggested, but 17 federal intelligence agencies uniformly concluded that the Russians interfered to try to hurt Hillary Clinton, to try to help Trump. And yet the candidate basically said, he stuck his head in the sand and said, well, I don't know, maybe Trump had some other information. When the day comes when I, as a U.S. citizen, can't believe a uniform decision of all the intelligence agencies in my country based upon national security, I don't consider myself much of a citizen that adheres to. And so the other point is...
Well, Jay, hold on. Can I just stop you real quick? It wasn't... This is Mr. Shapiro talking. It wasn't Mr. Shapiro that made that comment. I just want to be clear. It was Jim Marchant, our guest. And I'll tell you what I want to do here. Jay...
No, I know your position.
Okay, Jay, I want you to stay on the line. Can you stay on the line for us?
Sure.
Mr. Marchant, would you be able to stay for another 10 minutes?
Sure.
Great. I appreciate your time. Jay, I want you to stay on the line because this is an interesting conversation. We're going to put Jay on hold. I've got Dave, Paul, Mike, Todd. A bunch of people want to talk to you, so I figured let's give you another 10 minutes. We appreciate your time and willing to stay, Jim, very much so. So we're going to take all your calls when we come back. 257-5396, 702-257-5396. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. This is the Vegas Take. All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us on a Tuesday. Our very special guest is Jim Marchant. He is one of 8 candidates running for Congress in District 4. That primary will be in June, and we're taking your phone calls at 702-257-5396. Jim, I have a beef to pick with you because our producer just said that you were supposed to bring donuts, and he's very upset at that
right?
because he loves his free food. Yeah, he loves it. Sorry,
Next time.
Sorry, Stein. Buy your own Krispy Kremes, you cheap
What kind do you like?
jerk. Yeah, well, he probably likes the fattiest ones. That's
I
for
like
sure.
Krispy Kreme myself. So.
I do.
I'm also a fan of Krispy
love
Kreme.
Dunkin' Donuts. I grew up on the East
Dunkin'
Coast.
Donuts,
I love
yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh, Krispy
yes.
Kreme.
So we had Jay on hold, and Jay has been nice enough to wait. And by the way, the number to call is 257-5396. I want to bring Jay back on the line because Jay brought up an interesting point that we had 17 entities or organizations that said Russia didn't interfere, right, Jay? And Jim says that, Jim took the other side up and said, well, maybe he knows something we don't. So, Jay, go ahead and finish your thought, and then I want you and Jim to talk about this.
Very briefly, 17 United States intelligence agencies, all the agencies that are put in place by Congress over the years to protect our national interests and to protect us as citizens, uniformly made that conclusion. And yet, I'm not surprised that Trump got up there and turned his back on basically his country by siding with Putin.
All right, Jay, let's let Jim respond to that and stay on the line. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, for a long time, the communist and our enemy has been trying to infect our intelligence agency. How do we know they haven't been compromised at this point? I'm not sure who to trust at this point because I'm not there. I don't see what President Trump is seeing, and that's kind of my issue. I don't know whether I can trust him or not.
Jay, go ahead.
What he is seeing is what the intelligence agencies are presenting to him.
But
And
I
now
don't.
you're taking
I don't know that they're not compromised.
You don't believe what they're saying.
I don't know that they're not compromised.
Well, we don't know that God's sitting in the room with them or the devil's sitting in the room with them. We can always stick our head in the sand and not take a position. So your position is that you don't believe our intelligence agencies? When it's uniform, they make a uniform decision?
I don't know whether to believe them or not.
All right. Well, Jay, we appreciate your phone call. We
good call, Jay.
Appreciate your position. And again, I've made my opinion very clear. I think that when we have our own entities that say one thing, I think we should side with them over an evil, murderous dictator. That's just my opinion.
But the question is, if you side with your own entities and you call out the quote-unquote evil, murderous dictator who has a propensity for violence, who is a fellow superpower, what does that really accomplish, Brian?
702-25, I think it accomplishes one thing, and that's being honest and siding with our own country over a man who's murdered many of his own people. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Jim Marchant is our guest, running for District 4. Let's go to Dave. Dave, you are next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
What's up, Dave?
Hey, guys. Hey, just to interject a little humor to it, about the gay issue thing. Well, my attitude's changed. The older I get in life, it's like whatever floats everybody's boat. But I remember my son had a baseball coach, and his favorite saying with coaching his kids was, being bisexual doubles your chance for a date on a Friday night.
Well, wait, that might help me out. I might need to think about that. That's good.
To interject some humor, guys. Hey, I gotta go. I'm back in an 18-wheeler.
All right, Dave. Thank you. Make sure to tell us which strip club you go to. If you go to Chippendales or Sapphire tonight. 702-257-5396. Another person who wants to talk about procreation.
Hey, he's just playing his odds.
And the gay issue. Let's go to Paul. Paul, you're next up on the Vegas Take. You're on with Jim Marchant. What's on your mind?
What's up, Paul?
Hey, I'm just curious because I know that I came in a little bit late on the conversation, but I heard the gentleman there say that people work together to procreate. Is that correct?
Yes.
So what happens?
Well, just
when
the natural law is
okay. But when your body is no longer able to procreate, do you end the relationship?
Not necessarily. No.
Well, then I think, I'm indifferent to people being gay. I don't care one way or the other.
No, I'm just saying in general, the natural law is that everything,
norm.
every species procreates, whether you're a cell or an animal or whatever. That's the only way that we can continue to exist on the earth. And
But every species
there's going to
also
be
needs-
anomalies for everything. So,
But everything, we also need companionship past the point of procreation.
right. And
Sometimes
that happens
if you can't
when,
procreate, you still need companionship.
yeah, I agree with that.
That's a good point. Thank you for the call, Paul. We appreciate it.
Yeah, good call, Paul.
Yeah, companionship is a huge importance in life, procreation or not. In fact, there's many straight people that not only they can't procreate, but some that could, and they choose not to have
in
kids.
some situations,
Yeah,
you have infertile men. You have,
right.
you have a lot of
Absolutely.
different things. You have impotent
they
men who
can't
can't.
either.
And then you have to go the artificial
But
route.
I'm just saying, in general, natural law.
Right.
That's the that's
But without exceptions,
Yeah.
it's man woman.
right.
Right. 702-257-5396. Questions, comments for Jim Marchant, who's running in District 4. Let's go to Dave. Dave, you are next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
What's up, Dave?
Hi. Regarding the 17 intelligence agencies, I thought there was congressional testimony that of the 17 agencies, there was only 2 of them that had any information, which was the FBI and CIA, and the other 15 just went along with whatever they said.
That's not my understanding.
The other 15 agencies did not have any intelligence on their own.
Okay, so
that
let's just
basically backed up the Russians interfered on Trump's behalf.
let's just go with that for a second, and I want Jim to be a part of this conversation. But let's just say you're 100% right. The CIA and the FBI are 2 pretty important organizations in this country, and I think the question that is being raised is: are you okay with the President of the United States on a national stage siding with an evil, murderous dictator in Vladimir Putin over our own agencies, such as the CIA and the FBI?
Well, when the CIA and the FBI set up a program called Crossfire Hurricane, where they were trying to investigate Russian interference, and they specifically lied to the FISA court, they specifically lied to Trump, so they lied to the American people. So when you have the CIA and the FBI committing lies to the president, I can understand why the president would not trust them.
Okay, so
and that's my point. I don't know who to trust at this point.
Okay, well, again, I'll go what I said earlier. It doesn't change. When it comes to an evil, murderous dictator in Vladimir Putin or the FBI or the CIA, I'm going to take our own intelligence over Russian intelligence and Vladimir Putin. That's just me. Now, if you disagree with me and you want to side with evil, murderous dictators around the world, that's fine.
Intelligence agencies are lying to you. You would still trust
first
the
of all,
that you know are lying.
Well, first of all, people lie, and I'm not going to sit here and say that the CIA, people within the CIA have never lied. I'm not going to say people within the FBI have never lied.
That's their business.
I'm not going to. Well, I don't know if that's their business. I'd like to think that their business number one priority is protecting our country, but to think that
secrecy, espionage is definitely their business.
But I'm not going to take I'm not going to take the opinion that Dave and Jim take, in that well, you know, in this specific case, a couple of years ago, the CIA or the FBI might have lied when it came to this. So I'm okay with the president siding with Russia and Vladimir Putin over the FBI and the CIA. I think that's ridiculous. That's just my opinion.
I will push back on this. Russia admitted to having about 100,000 accounts on Facebook.
Right.
I think they spent about $100,000 in ads too, but which is still some type of minor interference, but it was blown well out of proportion. So you can't say there was interference. There definitely was, and Russia admitted to it, but it wasn't to the extent that the left wing media was trying to portray it as.
Right,
to help Donald Trump.
We all know that China and Russia and everybody hacks computers and hacks technology. So I guarantee you there was that going on too.
It's possible, Dave. I appreciate the phone call again.
Good call, Dave.
702-257-5396. There are some people on the right that think that Ukraine interfered in our elections. There are some people that have come up with that, and there is no evidence to support that. Do you believe that Ukraine interfered in our elections?
I don't know. I'm not privy to the intelligence, and even if I was, can I trust it at this point? So I don't know.
What did you make of the impeachment process? What did you make of some of your fellow Republicans that actually said that they believed that Trump was guilty, but yet they decided to vote not guilty? Do you think he did withhold aid for personal gain? And what are your thoughts on that whole situation and that phone call?
No, the transcript's pretty clear. I don't think he did.
So is it your opinion that when Donald Trump in that phone call brought up Joe Biden, who probably eventually is going to be the front runner running up against him. You believe 100% of the reason why Donald Trump brought that up was for only corruption and no other reason. That's the only reason why he brought up Joe Biden.
You know, I don't know what was in his mind once again, but I suspect. I mean, you read the transcript; it's pretty clear that
do us a favor.
It wasn't the pro quo. We're going to withhold the aid. So, yeah.
Were you a John Bolton? I mean, were you a supporter of John Bolton?
Not really.
Okay, because the reason why why I bring that up, because apparently Bolton's in his book, in one of the chapters, is going to be speaking to which
the book that no one's seen, the potential,
that's not true.
The first copy manuscript that may be coming out.
Not true that nobody's seen it. That's why some of excerpts of his book have been leaked. But I asked you, does it bother you if John Bolton in his book says that there was a quid pro quo? Would that bother you at all, or would you say Bolton's lying?
I'm not a Bolton fan.
But if he writes that, I know you're not a fan.
I would say I probably, once again, I'm not there. I don't know what to believe, but I tend to not believe that.
So what would you say to Representative Alexander and others in the Republican Party that were in that room that did say, they made statements that, the proof is in the pudding, he did withhold aid for personal gain. They just don't think it's an impeachable offense. What would you say to them, your fellow Republicans?
I think some people, even in the Republican Party, have other agendas.
You think that's why Mitt Romney voted? But hold on. Okay, so
have other agendas that and take their personal issues with Trump and will do anything to harm him.
But didn't Mitt Romney? Some say that he committed career suicide. Why would he do that? Now he went up there and he was emotional.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, he's emotional, right? I think he was being sincere. I like Mitt Romney. He said he voted his conscience.
And I voted for him when he ran.
Well, I think he's a decent man. I think we both agree. So what would be his reasoning? Can it just be possible that he was voting his conscience and he's telling the truth?
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
Because a lot of Republicans are going after him. You understand.
So Jim, you are a capitalist. Bernie Sanders won the Nevada caucus. One, were you surprised by that? And two,
no.
Do you think that Bernie Sanders will win the Democratic nomination or will it be Joe Biden?
Oh, gosh. We're seeing the dividing lines set up now. You've got the moderates and I think the establishment Democrats want Biden, and then you've got a lot of Bernie bros out there that that just are I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we've heard them on video say they're going to burn the place down if it's stolen from him again. So. I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to watch.
Well, and it kind of looks like that might be the case. Klobuchar just endorsed Biden.
Right.
Buttigieg just endorsed Biden.
Yep. And they're all lining up.
Which is a bit surprising.
The establishment Democrats, they're scared to death of Bernie, I believe.
Yeah, and I think that he definitely 2 weeks ago he said, hey, Republicans aren't going to stop me and Democrats aren't going to stop me, meaning he identifies as a socialist, which just totally different from you being a capitalist, myself being a capitalist.
And
I don't think that these Bernie supporters are going to come out and vote for Biden if that takes place. And I think Trump just completely destroys Biden under those circumstances.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I actually kind of like if Bernie was the nominee on the Democrat side, I don't really mind that because then we get to really discuss the capitalist versus socialist communist issue and get it out there. I think a lot of people don't really know what socialism is or what communism is, and we need to educate them, and I'm okay with that.
I think a lot of young people, millennials in particular, don't really know what they're voting for.
Free market capitalism is not taught in our schools anymore. Economics is not taught, and it's just we're seeing the result of that right now. And I think we need to get back to that. Education is a huge issue with me. And we need to teach the basics again, and so I'm all for that.
He is Jim Marchant. He's running in District 4 for Congress, one of 8 candidates. The primary is in June. Let's take some more phone calls at 257-5396. Let's go to Stephen. Stephen, you are next up on the Vegas Take. You're on with Jim. What's on your mind?
Yeah, good morning.
What's up, Stephen?
Jim, Brian, and JD.
Yes, sir.
I was wondering if you may not have thought about it, and perhaps maybe you can respond in the days ahead. I've listened to you on other radio talk stations. You seem like a square shooter, maybe close to Trump. If you could explain or advise Trump on how to get rid of the swamp in both parties, I think that's one of our biggest problems that we have in real government.
Yeah.
What would be one of your first steps, or what would you think about doing to get rid of the swamp?
Well, I think you have so many lobbyists and special interest groups up there. I don't know if it's possible. We have gotten to this point after many, many, many years of special interest and, frankly, crony capitalism. And until we can figure out how to deal with that, and greed is a huge issue, I don't know if we can. But I would love to try, and I'm open for suggestions, definitely.
Anything else for him, Stephen? All right. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate the phone
good
call.
Call, Stephen.
702-257-5396. Let's sneak in one more call. Let's go to Brady. Brady, you're next up on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Brady?
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. Hey, I wanted to say if Joe Biden gets elected, and I think the Republicans are going to take back both the House and the Senate, I think day one we're going to be going back to Ukraine, and Viktor Shokin, the guy that Joe Biden got fired for looking into Hunter Biden and Burisma, he actually has a lawsuit right now in the Ukrainian government. Don't you think we're going to impeach him day one? It's just a loser candidate. So I think we should just get rid of Krusty right away.
Okay, Brady, appreciate the phone call. Go ahead, Jim. I'll let you respond to that. Then I have some things I'd like to say to that.
So what did he say? He was assuming Joe Biden gets elected president?
Would be impeached with this.
I think he meant to say Democratic candidate. I don't think he meant to say elected.
Yeah, I think he misspoke there. But then again, when he calls into the show, he speaks every day. Jim, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, if he's saying that if Joe Biden gets elected president and then the Republicans win the House and the Senate, keep the Senate, will they impeach him?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if that were the case.
Wouldn't shock me, but
here's my question to that. I mean, obviously,
that's unfortunate. I don't like either side doing that.
That's what I was going to ask.
Weaponizing the Congress like that.
That was my question. I'm glad you brought that up because, I hear a lot from Republicans and Donald Trump from all the way down. It was a witch hunt, this impeachment process, and, they tried to get him on Russia. Now they're trying to get him on withholding aid. Well, I didn't hear Republicans complaining when there were 9 investigations into Benghazi. Not 1, not 2. 9 investigations into Benghazi that were led by Republicans. And I will also, in regards to Burisma, listen, we all know, I think any logical human being would say, the reason why Joe Biden's son got the job and was getting paid large amounts of money was because his father is Joe Biden. I think that's a realistic view. But with that being said, it's not against the law, just like it's not against the law for Donald Trump's family to make money off of and capitalize off of him being president. So what is the Republicans' argument? There was an investigation into it. There was no lawful wrongdoing. In fact, it was Joe Biden. A right-wing talking point is that, well, Joe Biden wanted the prosecutor fired. Well, there were hundreds of Republicans that also hold on, let me finish. There were hundreds of Republicans that also wanted that same prosecutor fired because he wasn't doing enough for corruption.
Brian, he didn't just want him fired. He literally went on TV and said, if this guy is not gone in 6 hours, then I'm withholding $1 billion.
And why? What was his reasoning for it?
Because apparently he was corrupt.
And investigating his son.
Right. There's definitely something to that.
The reason being that he put forward, in the context of it, and the reason why many Republicans agreed with him at that time and didn't object to it was not, according to the information that we have, is not because his son was being investigated, was because the prosecutor wasn't doing enough to combat corruption. I think that's a very fine line. It wasn't because Hunter Biden was being investigated. He wanted this guy gone, as many Republicans did.
Right.
I mean, I think that's important.
Well, I have some issues with some of those Republicans. I'm more of the very conservative side, and a lot of them are more of the establishment, and I am definitely not part of the establishment. So I'm kind of on the outside. Nationally and here in Nevada, in my own state.
So you think that Hunter Biden broke the law? You think that the Bidens broke the law?
I don't know that Hunter broke the law. I know that Joe Biden, when he basically said that on the video that this guy needs to be fired, I think that was a quid pro quo moment for him. And is that against the law? I mean, apparently it is.
Well, when you say quid pro quo, how do you know that he wanted this guy fired?
Well, he said it.
Right,
Didn't
but
he?
how do you know he wanted him fired for the only sole purpose because he didn't want his son investigated?
And how do you know that Donald Trump
that's what he was talking about.
wanted the same thing with the Ukraine for the sole purpose of investigating Joe Biden, just because John Bolton says so?
Right.
But
Joe Biden actually said this. Donald Trump didn't say anything.
But this is important.
Whistleblowers claim that Donald Trump said
But this
those
is
things.
important. He didn't say that. He didn't say that he wanted him fired because his son was being investigated. He made the case. Well, it's true. He never said that on the record. He said that he wanted him fired because he wasn't doing enough to combat corruption. And there were many, as I said, I know you disagree with them, but there are many Republicans that agreed with Joe Biden.
Right.
And by the way, the Bidens were investigated. They dropped the investigation. The investigation was over because they didn't find any wrongdoing.
Right.
So, I mean, I think those are important facts. We can disagree on that, but, I disagree with that caller who called in who said that Joe Biden would be impeached because I don't think there's a plethora of evidence in regards to Donald Trump.
With how fast Democrats went after Donald Trump the second he got into office, I don't think it's that unreasonable to assume that the same thing could happen, an eye for an eye type of situation with Joe Biden.
And it would probably be the same result.
If he were to become the president of the United States in 2020.
And I wouldn't advise it. If he really did something, then of course, but
it'd probably be the same result. Let's take another phone call, 257-5396. Let's go to Joel. Joel, you're next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Joel?
Good morning, guys. Mr. Marchant, 2 years ago, you were on the radio and told people that they need to vote for you instead of Democrats because Democrats are evil. Do you still believe that Democrats are evil?
some of them are, I believe, yes.
Which ones? Which ones? That you were running against evil. And why?
Right, because I just don't agree with a lot of their policies and beliefs.
So you think
so that makes them evil because you don't agree with them?
Agree with, and where they want to take our country, yes.
Which ones?
I'd rather not say.
Joel,
you're a coward.
All right, Joel,
Okay.
I appreciate the phone call.
Yeah, good call, Joel.
I think I understand what he was trying to say there.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a chance to take back that statement because you disagree with one's policies, you still think they're evil?
I think some of them are, yes.
Okay, so give me an I'm not asking you to name.
Yeah.
But give me an example of a policy that you think is evil that Democrats support.
I would say trying to implement communism and socialism in our country, something that was against what our founders designed.
So then you would say that Bernie Sanders is evil?
I would say that could be.
So you think Social Security is evil because Social Security is a form.
I'm not a big fan of that.
So how do we help men and women at that age that have retired that maybe don't have funds to? You think that's evil to try to help people?
No, not that.
Okay.
But if we had the opportunity to go back and redo some of the things that we've implemented in the beginning and having 2020 as hindsight, I think we'd do it differently. I think we all can agree that our Social Security is a disaster.
All right. Well,
there's no money in it.
I understand.
I mean, they rated it.
Here's what I think. Here's what I think is an evil. I don't even know if I'd use the term evil.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with policy when it comes to Donald Trump. You know what it has to do with? The way the man lives his life.
Right.
Having unprotected sex with a porn star 2 months after your wife.
I don't know that they did that.
Well, $120,000 payment, and I tend to believe that it did happen. To me, that's evil.
I wasn't there.
Okay, I understand.
We weren't there.
I understand.
And $120,000 is actually a small amount of money for something. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo paid, I think, $20 million. Kobe Bryant paid X amount of millions.
Whatever. We're getting in the weeds.
A lot of very successful men have paid either hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to make these stories go away.
Okay, I think it's evil to go after a man or a woman who served this country honorably and then say you don't respect them because they were captured. I think it's evil to go after a woman based on looks. Now, we can disagree on policy, and I respect your opinion on that, and I've said that throughout the show.
Right.
But I don't think it's evil to disagree with policy. I guess that's where we disagree. There's a lot of things that Republicans and I disagree on. I don't think that's evil.
Yeah, well, I'm more of a religious guy.
Understand.
And I don't want to judge anybody, but I definitely don't want to go the direction that a lot of the Democrats want to take us.
And that's your beliefs, and I respect your beliefs. I don't like religion. I'm not a very religious person. I'm not an atheist, but I certainly wouldn't go to the extent of calling religious people evil. I would call the priests who have molested little boys evil.
I call them evil, too. Absolutely.
I think
100%.
Right, but I think there's a fine line between people who molest children and somebody's policy that you disagree with. But, I understand.
Pedophiles.
Absolutely.
They're disgusting.
Jim, I only got about a minute left here. This time goes by fast. Why should I want to give you the opportunity. The floor is yours.
Yeah.
Give out your website. Why should people vote for you?
Yeah, JimMarchant.com, JimMarchant.com. I am the only one that has any legislative experience. I'm not a career politician like some of my opponents have said. I ran because of the commerce tax mainly and fiscal issues. I was definitely against the commerce tax and raising taxes. And I'm the only one that served. I have an A-plus rating with the NRA. I have endorsements from some very influential people. Congressman Andy Biggs, chairman of the House Freedom Caucus, Congressman Paul Gosar of Arizona, the chairman of the Western Caucus Foundation, which is an organization that advocates for Western states. So.
Well, Jim, unfortunately, we're up against a break here, but I want to just thank you for taking the time to come in studio. We tackled a lot of subjects. I had a feeling we might disagree on some stuff.
Yeah, well, I think we do.
But you know what? But I respect you coming in and making your case, and hopefully we can do it again sometime. Jim, thank you so much for your time. Take a quick break. Be back right after this.
Thanks a lot, Jim.